Hello, welcome to Priory Paddock and happy Easter. Easter's early this year, but I'm afraid even so, the signs of spring here in the paddock are still few and far between. The rooks in the trees in front of the priory are refurbishing their nests. They can be seen and probably heard from here at the bottom of the paddock, and the twigs from the older trees at the top of the paddock are a popular choice for nest refurbishment. Rooks can often be seen in the trees here, looking hard to select exactly the right twig they need for their nest. Down by the gate, the gorse is in flower as ever, and the big willow trees around the pond are showing an excellent display of pussy willow. The tall twigs at the top of the trees are smothered in pussy willow at the moment. When I was a boy, the country people used to refer to those sprays of pussy willow as palm, because they were used to decorate the churches on Palm Sunday, but it's a term I haven't heard for a long time now. The winter hasn't been particularly cold. We haven't had a lot of frost, but it's been unrelentingly wet, and we have had consistent cold winds which have stopped the ground drying out very much at all. And above all, there has been a shortage of sunshine. It's been very cloudy, so we've had very little sunshine to warm the few insects that have been tempted out of hibernation by now. We've had one peacock butterfly which overwintered. I can hear the rooks disputing something over there. The one peacock butterfly which came out in the middle of March and sunned itself, tried to energise itself, but sadly hasn't been seen since. There's been a few solitary bees and visits from honeybees to the celandines and dandelion flowers here in the paddock, and we've had a couple of 7-spot ladybirds coming out, because I'm sure the aphids will be starting to move as soon as the plants that they feed on are starting to move. Looking along the wall to the right hand side of the path here, between the gate and the new interpretation board, I can see the white star-shaped flowers of wild strawberries along the wall. There's a good show of those at the moment with their triform leaves, and there are some fleshy, hairy plants showing strong stems, with a few as yet bright blue flowers that look like slightly overgrown forget-me-nots, and this is alkanet. There are some wonderful celandine flowers shining bright gold in the sunshine. The celandine is the classic flower of early spring, and there are lots of celandines here in the paddock. The heart-shaped leaves and bright gold petals. The number of petals varies quite considerably. 8, I would say, is probably standard, but I've seen them with anything up to 13 petals in the past. On the wall itself, underneath the interpretation board, there's a spray on the wall, actually on the wall, of ivy-leaved toadflax. Ivy-leaved toadflax is a classic wall flower, nothing to do with young maidens sitting along the side of a dance floor. It has interestingly pink stems. It has green leaves, which look roughly like ivy leaves, but a little more rounded, and it has a nice small lilac pink flower, and that will carry on flowering all through the year. Coming up to the pond, there are some early primroses along the side of the pond, and in the pond itself a good show of the large heart-shaped dark green leaves of the marsh marigolds, and the quite large buds of the marigold, and some of those are just beginning to open now. That's, I would think, a little bit late, but they are just starting to open up now. And beyond the pond, over on the far side of the boardwalk, between the boardwalk and the wall, our monster plant, our Brazilian giant rhubarb, is showing excellent growth this time of the year. It was covered up. It started to sprout through its heap of mulching leaves. It started to sprout through those in February. It was covered up with a fleece blanket to keep it safe from early frost, but it's pushed the blanket up out of the way. We've had to remove that now, and the fresh shoots on the giant rhubarb are 4 feet tall at least at the moment, and growing very fast indeed. Coming round to the well, there was a frog in the well recently. There were frogs in the pond earlier in the year, and we had some frog spawn. That frog spawn has now sunk below the surface, and I presume, I hope at any rate, that the eggs are developing nicely there. Here in the well at the moment, I can't see, there's no sign of a frog, but there are a good number of snails, water snails, on the side of the well. Starting to walk up the snaky path, on the left there's a blackthorn bush, demonstrating why it's called a blackthorn bush, because the white flower buds are just beginning to open long before the leaves, and so there's white buds and flowers adorning very dark bare twigs. As we come up towards the top of the paddock, in the woodland area, the area between the big trees and the hazels and bird cherries here are carpeted in celandines. There are thousands of celandine flowers, and if we get any flash of sunshine, they will open up and shine brilliantly in the sunshine. And there's the dark green, black spotted, heart-shaped leaves. There's a sign of spring. That's the song of a chiff-chaff. He's come all the way from probably from North Africa. Oh, that's excellent. As I was saying, under the trees here there are heart-shaped leaves of the celandines. There are shield-shaped leaves of the wild arum, which isn't actually in flower yet, although I can see one bud. And there are lots and lots of sword-shaped dark green leaves for the bluebells, but I can't see any blue buds there at all. There are leaves of red campion plants here, and of the rosy garlic plants, but oh yes, there's I can just see some wild anemones. There's not many wild anemones here, but there's 2 or 3. I can see 2 or 3 lovely white star-shaped flowers with a palm-shaped leaf. Well, that's what can be seen in Priory Paddock at the moment. I hope you've enjoyed the visit, and if you come back next month, I'm sure spring will be much further on by then. Cheerio!